This is Darren McInder, and you are listening to Pink Floyd and the Concept of Insanity, brought to you by DMAC 120. In the music industry, a concept album is an album where all the songs are tied together by an underlying theme. Arguably, the masters of the genre, Pink Floyd, has produced 15 studio albums, out of which 8 are considered concept albums. Pink Floyd was founded in 1965 by Syd Barrett, Nick Mason, Roger Waters, and Richard Wright. Going by the name The T-Set, they were forced to change the name on the spot when another band at a gig was using the same name. Barrett came up with The Pink Floyd from the names of 2 blues musicians, Pink Anderson and Floyd Council. During 1967 and 68, Syd Barrett became increasingly unstable due to his increasing use of psychedelic drugs and latent schizophrenia, until the band was forced to replace him with David Gilmour. At one time, he arrived at the studio and was so unrecognizable it brought Waters to tears. The mental health of Barrett, along with the loss of Waters' father in World War II, would go on to influence much of Pink Floyd's later musical themes. Although 8 of Pink Floyd's albums are considered concept albums, there are 4 that deserve mention above the others. Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and The Wall are considered some of the best rock albums of all time, and for very good reason. The exploration of life, death, war, and insanity that are explored in these albums is without parallel in music history. In fact, Dark Side of the Moon is one of the best-selling albums in the world, shattering records to this day. Probably the best known of Pink Floyd's concept albums is The Wall. The movie Pink Floyd The Wall was released in 1982 and starred Bob Geldof as the character Pink, whose father had died in World War II and who slowly goes insane from stress and drug use. The live tour for The Wall was an enormously expensive show that used theatrics and props to recreate the scenes Waters envisioned in the music, and was only performed 31 times. Although the band encouraged Waters to adapt the live show for The Wall to a stadium, he wouldn't. He felt that the themes of alienation told by the music was opposite from the idea of a stadium show used to make money. Asked repeatedly if he would ever perform The Wall again, Waters said in an interview with Redbeard in 1989,
I'm told that they're thinking seriously about tearing down the wall in West Berlin. And that's the only place that I would ever do it outdoors.
Little did Waters know that a short 4 months later, the Berlin Wall would come down.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
It was dark all around. There was frost in the ground when the tigers broke free.
Waters would go on to perform The Wall live at the Brandenburg Gate in 1990, and also decided to perform it again from 2010 to 2013. And since Waters holds the rights to The Wall, it is the highest grossing tour for a solo artist ever. Pink Floyd has used the theme of life stress and how it can impact a person's mental state to make some of the best music in history. If you are not familiar with the concept albums of Pink Floyd, you are truly missing out. This has been Darren McInder with Pink Floyd and the Concept of Insanity. Thanks for listening.